Hey everybody, my name is Seth from Burning Hammer Wrestling. Today, I just want to talk to you about Raw on Netflix. Um, before I get into that, there's a few things that I watched over the weekend, uh, and I wanted to talk about them a little bit. We're going to start with NJPW Wrestle Kingdom 19. Um, I didn't watch the entire show. I just watched the main event, and I also watched Wrestle Dynasty's main event. And I had a good time watching them. There was some pretty good matches on there. Shota Umino took on Zack Sabre Jr. He's the IWGP World Heavyweight Champion right now. Great match. So I don't know. That's something to check out, is what I'm trying to say. Wrestle Dynasty was kind of I guess it's a collab between NJPW and AEW. So Kenny Omega returned, and that was great too. It's always good to see Kenny Omega. Diverticulitis, he was out for a while, came back, had a match with Gabe Kidd. Good match. I enjoyed it. Obviously, Japanese, like the style of wrestling, it's different over there. The crowds are different. So if you don't really, if you want to watch some extra wrestling, it's something to check out. So now moving on, we'll move on to WWE here, because that's obviously the big thing. Right now, everybody's talking about the Netflix show, which just ended for me. I watched it live. But first, even before that, I want to talk about SmackDown. I don't want to talk about most of the show. I'm just trying to say it's Tiffy time, because I think they hit the jackpot with her. I think she's great. She's attractive. She's athletic. She is pretty good on the mic. She's a storyteller. Like, she's just completely a natural. They, took their time. They took their time getting to this, but I thought they did it well. They sort of were like, well, because she's been working with Nia, and it's been like this partnership thing, and they kind of teased like, oh, she's still, just kind of the henchman for Nia or whatever. But I like the way they did this. They had so many opportunities to make this happen, and to do it now, I think, is the right move. Obviously, with thing like broadcasters transition, going to Netflix and having SmackDown move to USA, all those things. I thought that was great. I thought it was a good time to do it. And like I said, I think they hit the jackpot. I think she's awesome, and they should roll with her for a while. And they obviously they teased it for a while with the briefcase. Everybody knew it was going to happen. They, she was the only briefcase for most of the year. So, we'll move to Raw. So it just ended for me. It is 11:30 almost on Monday night for me on the East Coast. And first of all, the Intuit Arena, it looked awesome. They did a great job. They spared no expense on this. They spent money. Their budget was, they had a high budget for this. It looked so cool. There was like these red lights in the audience. I don't even know how they did that. They had drones outside doing little light shows and stuff like that. The Jumbotron was awesome. Like, just everything that they were able to get into their camera shots, like, looked really, really good. I don't expect it to, like, necessarily, like, I don't expect Raw to be that way, like, all the time. But this was a huge, like, inaugural kickoff show. It was like, they wanted to introduce people to the new audience, or the new audience to what they're doing. And I felt like they did a good job with that. They made it look great. There was some, surprise entrance, surprise returns, I guess you could say. They were cameos. But it was cool. I think, like, a lot of people are going to complain about the fact that there wasn't that much wrestling. There was only 4 or 5 matches. And it's like, yeah, of course there's a lot of fanfare. It's like they're sitting here, they're trying to bring people, they're trying to bring the people who may have not been watching for the last few years. They're trying to get them back because you're expanding your audience by a lot by moving to Netflix. So that alone, it's like, obviously you want to appeal to as many people as you can. There's a lot of people that are going to be watching, whether it be live or afterwards. So I thought they did well. I thought it was good. Overall, you have Triple H come out sort of announcing the Netflix era thing. You have The Rock comes out. Basically, that's the main start of the show is The Rock. The Rock comes out. He's not even in character. It's just completely breaking the fourth wall on this. Just not in character. Just kind of coming out and expressing gratitude and trying to hype up the show a little bit. I enjoyed it. Then the first match is Roman Reigns and Solo Sikoa for the Ulafala, which this was, it's obviously been built. I don't know how much, if the storyline's even going to carry, like how far the storyline's going to carry now. But that was obviously the main thing. They were fighting over that. So to see that transition back to Roman is interesting. And I don't know. We'll see what happens from there. It was a pretty good match, actually. It was kind of predictable. You saw, you kind of knew who was going to get involved. I didn't expect Kevin Owens personally, but that made sense too. Good match, enjoyed it. So then Cena comes out. That's the next segment. He basically comes out. He's talking about his farewell tour. He starts, he basically implies he's probably not gonna win another title. He hasn't won a match in a long time. He even says it during this, but he's implying I don't need to win another world title. But he eventually kind of comes around on this, and he goes, well, I'm going to win the Royal Rumble. That's what he says. Don't know if he's going to, but, if he does, that's interesting, because if he does, he called his shot. I don't know. I think maybe the Money in the Bank, to me, is maybe a better approach for it, but because winning the Royal Rumble should be a long shot, like it should be difficult. Like, unless he gets, the last entry, the Royal Rumble should always be difficult. You should never really be able to call your shot and just win the Royal Rumble. But it's possible that they go that route, and John Cena could win that and get that main event at WrestleMania. That's possible. Then you got Rhea versus Liv. Rhea wins the title back. Pretty good match. Can't complain about the match, I don't think. It wasn't great, but it was, it was Rhea versus Liv. We've seen it. Rhea wins the title. She leaves. She starts leaving, and for some reason, Undertaker shows up. You hear the bell, and you're like, "What is that all about?" He comes out on the motorcycle, does a lap around the ring. It was kind of ceremonial, but it was cool. I didn't mind seeing it. I didn't really understand the significance, but it was cool to see. Kind of a weird, like, random spot for that to happen. I thought. I don't know that there's any other. I haven't heard any. I don't know. It just is what it is. So, she wins the title back. Taker shows up. Then there's like a backstage. So The Rock went on Instagram. He did like an Instagram live thing. He's talking to people backstage. The Rock is like drinking and driving, basically. Takes a few sips of his Terramana or whatever, and then he gets in a car and drives away. And you're like, if you're paying attention, he's drinking and driving, which is kind of weird. It's kind of a weird thing to have just like mixed in there. Chad Gable in the backstage area. Basically requests their best luchador. So he wants to fight a luchador, is the way he put it. And so it's like, okay, we know where you're going with this. they keep showing the Penta thing. Penta's coming back, or he's debuting, I guess I should say. And it's going to be with Chad Gable. And on the last episode of the podcast, we didn't really know where they were going to go with that. And I think this is a good idea. Like, Chad Gable is so good, and we talk about it a bunch. Like, we talk about it all the time. But Chad Gable is a really good spot for him to come in, because that's going to put him in like upper mid-card territory. It's going to like give him a good feud to work with. I think Penta's going to shine in that spot. I think that's a great move. So I can't wait. That's going to be next week, Penta's debut, and he'll have a match with Chad Gable. Travis Scott then shows up. He's smoking a joint and in the crowd during Jey Uso's entrance, and Pat McAfee keeps calling it Sage. So I thought that was pretty funny. So it was weird. Like, this kind of like little section here was kind of weird, because it's like you see like drinking and driving, and then all of a sudden you see a dude smoking a joint on Raw, which is something, you know, you don't see that. I thought it was interesting. There was a lot of things that were, I don't know, like, people, when they moved to Netflix, I thought they were expecting too much. They were expecting it to be like a lot more free, and they showed that it was. They did show that it was. They let a lot of things slide. You know, language was allowed. A lot of language was allowed. They did cut. They did drop audio in certain points. But overall, it was a little bit more free, and I did enjoy that. Then you got Jey Uso and Drew McIntyre. This was a good match. Not much really to say about it. Good match. Jey wins with a roll up, and you know, it didn't hurt either guy. It was just there to, you know, introduce people to these guys that are main event guys. Then Hogan shows up. Now, he basically like he basically gets like booed out. He's like standing on the stage. He like first he basically just showed up to promote his beer. And it's like, okay, well, why? Like, we know what the audience sentiment of Hogan is. Like, people don't like him. So it just felt unnecessary, but it felt like it was something that was like contractually obligated. That's the way it felt. It felt like it was something that, because they have his Real American Beer like logo in the ring as one of the sponsors. That's another thing that's different, is, you know, they do have sponsorships in the ring that apparently are just going to be that. It's going to be that way for as far as we know. But I thought it was hilarious that he came out and basically didn't get a good crowd response. You know, it is what it is. It's Hogan. You know, we get that. We all get that picture there. And then the main event is Punk and Rollins. This was actually a really enjoyable match. They, you know, I think it's interesting that like you don't see, you know, referees nowadays don't even like count out. It's like the match starts and then they go to the outside of the ring and they're not counting to 10. They just let it happen, and which is fine. But it's like a suspension of disbelief thing. It's like, if you're gonna have rules in place, it's like, why aren't we counting to 10? You know, it's just a weird thought that I had during this match. There was like a lot of conversation between him and the ref, but you know, and that could have been a way for them to explain it, but it doesn't explain that happens all the time. Like that does happen all the time. You know, there's a lot of times where the ref isn't really counting out, and if they are, they're counting slow. It's like, I get it. Countouts, we understand countouts always work the same. It always plays out the same way. That, you know, that gets to 9 and then the guy rolls into the ring. It's like, we get it, but still, you know, it's just a kind of a pet peeve I have there. Match is good. Rollins, the finish is Rollins goes for a superplex. He rolls through it. Punk turns it into a GTS and wins. I think it's the right move. I wouldn't have been mad either way on this match, to be honest with you. They hyped it up really well. It felt like a big match. I think what took away from how big the match was is how much fanfare was involved in this show. And I understand it, but you know, it's one of those things where you're like, yeah, there's a lot of it's less wrestling and a lot of talking. And I think it pulls you out of the vibe of, so like if you watch UFC, you see UFC matches and there's a fight and there's another fight. There's a gap between them, but there's fights. There's no promos, and it keeps you in that mindset. Whereas like if you're going promo match, promo match, promo, it's like it's changing gears, and that's fine on a weekly show. And if you do it right, if you do it, short segments and then a match, but like sometimes you just want to see more matches. I get people's gripe with that. I don't necessarily blame them for doing what they did here. I thought this was good. It felt like a celebration. There was a lot of people there, but it's like when you're showing celebrities the whole time, that's a little different. One thing I noticed too is that we in the States got ads. We got ad breaks, but from like some of the online chats I was reading, they weren't getting them. So they were seeing just Seth Rollins, just strolling around in the ring to his entrance music for, 6 minutes or whatever before the match actually started. That was interesting. I didn't know. I think that's just a regional thing. I don't think it has anything to do with your ad tier or your Netflix tier or anything, but I have the cheapest tier. I get the ad version of Netflix just because I always have. I don't know. I just always get the cheapest version because why pay that much for streaming services? I have too many already as it is. So that was interesting. So it's not, I don't know. It's confusing the way that works. There are a lot of ad breaks. It's just like it's on TV, but that's to be expected. I don't think anything here, to be honest with you, was anything that shouldn't have been expected. If you expected something crazy, I don't know. It's kind of on you, because I thought the show was exactly what it was meant to be. Other than that, that's it really. I just wanted to come on and cover a couple things because I had some thoughts. Dave and I want to do more of these just by ourselves, and just kind of be able to keep up a little bit more with things that are going on outside of our regular podcast schedule, which is bi-weekly right now. So you do miss a lot of events. So anytime there's like, maybe a major event like a PLE or whatever, if we can get on and recap it just by ourselves, that's great. And we would like to do that more. So thank you for watching. Go to burninghammerwrestling.com, follow along with us. And that's it. Thank you. We'll see you soon.